Shalom, everybody. I'm Ron Cantor in Jerusalem. Behind me is the beautiful Mount of Olives. So much great biblical history took place right here. But we're talking about the Jewish aversion to Jesus. In our last episode, we talked about some of the rhetoric that came from Chrysostom and Augustine and Constantine. But things actually got worse for the Jewish people. Listen to the words again of Dr. Michael Brown. During the long, dark years of the Middle Ages, Jews were frequently given the option of baptism or expulsion, baptism or torture, baptism or death. Every type of degrading law was passed against the Jewish people. They were forbidden to work. They were forbidden for good jobs. After all, they were a cursed people, the assassins of Christ. So how could they be allowed to prosper? They were forced to listen to humiliating public sermons aimed at their conversion. Wasn't this the holy obligation of the church? Their children were kidnapped and baptized as Christians, thus saving them from the fires of hell. They were rounded up and beaten as a highlight of Easter celebrations, since they deserved it as murderers of the Lord. And in the fervor and fanaticism of the Crusades, as the riffraff of Europe gathered to liberate the Holy Land from the Muslim infidels, a great new discovery was made. There were infidels that could be killed in their own backyard. Why wait for the Holy Land? And so the hideous slogan was born, "Kill a Jew and save your soul." Jews were often accused of kidnapping Christian children and making matzah with their blood. And then collective punishment was unleashed on whole Jewish communities. While most religious Jews didn't even give much thought to the person of Jesus, they were accused often of kidnapping Christian children for the purpose of re-crucifying Jesus. Hitler was not the first to force Jews to identify themselves in public. In the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215, these were Christian leaders discussing theology, they further codified the segregation of Jews, requiring them to wear distinctive dress, a conical hat in the Germanic lands, and a Jew badge in the Latin countries that made them simultaneously more visible and vulnerable to attack. Jewish people were constantly compared to the devil himself and were considered by many to not be completely human. The unspeakable crime of crucifying Jesus was attributed to all Jews collectively, and hence, for medieval Europe, there was no crime of which this enemy of mankind was potentially incapable. He was a creature of a different order, not really human, at least not in the sense of that Christians were. Most significant of all, he was constantly linked with the devil in medieval Christian writing, painting, and sculpture. Peter the Venerable, in the 1100s, a man known for his love and good works, said this, You Jews, I say, do I address you, you who to this very day deny the Son of God. How long, poor wretches, will you not believe the truth? Truly, I doubt whether a Jew can really be human. I lead out from its den a monstrous animal and show it as a laughingstock in the amphitheater of the world in sight of all the people. I bring thee forward, thou Jew, thou brute beast, in the sight of all men. In the Crusades that lasted 200 years, Christian warriors marched toward the Holy Land to liberate it from the Muslims, and the Jews were not spared. As we read earlier, the Crusaders reasoned that since there are Jews all throughout Europe, they inflicted much pain on them as well. Women were raped, and whole communities were wiped out. In 1492, the Spanish Inquisition supposedly began, but it really began long before that. In the 1300s, and I quote, the massacre of 4,000 Jews in the Jewish quarter of Seville in 1391, incited by the demagogic preaching of Ferrant Martinez against Jewish wealth and false doctrines, would permanently transform the situation of Spanish Jewry. The carnage soon spread to other parts of Spain, and within 3 months, almost 50,000 Jews were dead, and many more baptized. And then came the Reformation, and excited Martin Luther hoped that he would be able to win Jews now that he understood the truths of the gospel. But when they didn't come en masse to his message, he turned viciously against them. Here's an excerpt from a book he wrote called The Jews and Their Lies, a favorite book of any good Nazi. This was Luther's suggestion on how to deal with the Jewish problem. First, their synagogue should be set on fire. Secondly, their homes should be likewise broken down and destroyed. Thirdly, they should be deprived of their prayer books and their Talmuds. Fourthly, their rabbis must be forbidden under the threat of death to teach anymore. Fifthly, passport and travel privileges should be absolutely forbidden to the Jews. Sixthly, they ought to be stopped from usury, that's charging interest on loans. Seventh, let the young and strong Jewishes be given the flail, the axe, the hoe, the spade, the distaff and spindle, and let them earn their bread by the sweat of their noses. We ought to drive the rascally, lazy bones out of our system. Therefore, away with them. To sum up, dear princes and nobles who have Jews in your domains, if this advice of mine does not suit you, then find a better one so that we and you may all be free of this insufferable, devilish burden, the Jews. All this made the Holocaust a possibility. The hay had been spread all over Europe, right around the Jewish people. Somebody just needed to light the match. Let me share this quote with you from one of the greatest Holocaust scholars. Since the 4th century after Christ, there have been 3 anti-Jewish policies: forced conversion, expulsion, and annihilation. The second appeared as an alternative to the first, and the third emerged as an alternative to the second. The missionaries of Christianity had said, in effect, you have no right to live among us as Jews. The secular rulers who followed them proclaimed, you have no right to live among us. And then the Nazis at last decreed, you have no right to live. The process began with the attempt to drive the Jews into Christianity. The development was continued in order to force the victims into exile, and it was finished when the Jews were driven to their deaths. The German Nazis then did not discard the past. They built upon it. They did not begin a development, they completed it. Indeed, Hitler always said, I'm only finishing what the church started. So is it any wonder that the Jewish people are not running to put their faith in Jesus? What a deplorable witness. How can they even know the true nature and character of our Messiah with such a wicked caricature and facsimile that has been forced down their throats? No, we need a different method, a new way, and in order to find out what that is, we have to go back 2,000 years to the New Testament. We've got one more episode. Thanks so much for joining me here in Jerusalem.